Hi, everyone, and welcome to this new Furt'Her podcast. I'm very happy today to host Ioana with us and to discover her path within the blockchain ecosystem and to learn more about all the projects that she's leading. So, Ioana, welcome to our podcast today. I'm very intrigued by all your path into the blockchain industry and very happy to have this conversation with you today. I have many questions for you. So first of all, I would like to know, how did you start? How did you enter this ecosystem?
Lorena, thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here, and I really am looking forward to the discussion. Obviously, we've ran into one another at various events throughout time, so I'm happy that we finally got the time down and we're recording this. How did I enter the space? Because I always get asked this story, and I always try to bring a new angle into it. But the reality is that yeah, I stumbled. I wasn't doing any particular research, but I stumbled on crypto and blockchain late 2015, early 2016. And I generally started to increasingly get fascinated with the topic and understanding that this is something that I am organically drawn to from an intellectual perspective, as well as from potential of revamping existing social norms, economic norms, and financial norms angle as well. So it was a variety of things that drew me to the space. At the time, I was still in the political world, in the European Parliament. So it wasn't really something that was compatible with crypto necessarily. And no one was in the political environment where I was working from within, i.e. the European Parliament. No one was really looking at this. And I always like these scenarios where, there's something happening and I'm kind of one of the first people to bring it to the attention of the others. So yeah, that's what happened then. And then I moved on to work in a global financial institution, and then I exited and went directly in crypto.
Okay, great. It's interesting to know that you come from the political world. That I didn't know. Okay.
Yes, yeah, I used to. That's why I ended up in Brussels, actually. Right after I had finished my master's in Tel Aviv. It was around the time that Romania had acceded to the European Union, and we had the first wave of Romanian politicians, and one of them was vice president of the EPP group, the European People's Party group, and I came in effectively as this head of cabinet, and I was in charge of coordinating a couple of committees, mostly dealing with the EU budget and infrastructure investments, etc. From an European Parliament perspective, obviously, but I was part of various negotiating circles with the Commission and the Council, including on the European Fund for Strategic Investment, which had some infrastructure investment points.
Yes.
And I was actually excited about that, thinking that we could actually do a lot to support the European startup or the EU startup ecosystem. But yeah, as I'm sure you know as well as I do, it's not that seamless when it comes to
No.
actually deploying these funds. Yeah.
And
Yeah, so that's how I started.
who were the first people you were talking with that were also in the same mindset of you, like being pioneers into understanding the technology, the added value of it?
That's a very interesting question. I haven't asked this question before. I haven't been asked this question before. It's always about the origin, but then the peoples or human ecosystem around me at the time, I haven't been asked this question before. I think when I was in the European Parliament, there weren't too many. And because I was part of a nucleus that had nothing to do with finance, which is what crypto came out, or which is why crypto was designed to, if we're honest, right, to counter some of the inefficiencies and centralized governance points within the traditional financial world. This is why crypto was invented. That was the first implementation. So not many people, but then when I moved over to Citigroup, which was within less than a year, then I would say that my first person of like real pioneering, a person from the crypto pioneering world, has to be Jamie Burke, the founder, CEO, and now chairman of Outlier Ventures. I was at Citigroup, and he was one of the first people that I interacted with. And then I started getting more and more involved, even though I was at Citigroup, in mentoring OV startups and I guess he's one of the first. Then there was the Imperial College crypto unit. I don't know if they still have it. William Nottenbelt, who's a professor there and also a good friend, as well as Jamie, of course. He was doing research on crypto and then ended up going into quantum computing and all sorts of infrastructure and extremely deep DeFi topics.
Okay.
So it was another one. So I guess these two come to mind initially. I'm surprised that there's no woman, but yeah, maybe I'll come up with a name as we progress because I haven't really thought about that. But yeah,
Very
Jamie,
few, yes.
sure.
Indeed. Yeah, it's interesting. And as you mentioned, this space has values, added values. And can you tell us a little bit what values are aligned to your values?
Quite frankly, what most attracts me to the space is the high amount of extremely smart people that work on putting Web Plus. I call it Web Plus.
Yeah.
I always feel the need to decipher the syntagma because it's Web3, then Web4. We're going to have an infinite, So what attracts me the most is the fact that we've managed to aggregate some of the brightest minds across industry and philosophy and politics even, to build something that provides a viable alternative to what we have today. Again, not just in finance, but in capital markets and in politics and in society more generally. So from that perspective, I think I've always loved to be in an environment where I feel intellectually challenged in the sense that I want to learn more constantly. And crypto offers that. Web3, Web Plus offers that. So these are the values. In terms of what have we actually achieved, if we go back to our initial crypto goals, and I'm not one of the, thank you for calling me a pioneer. I think I'm one, a few years after. So the 2010, 2010, 2010 folks, these are the actual pioneers. But thank you for including me in that group. If we go back to what the goals were initially, I don't know if we've accomplished all of them, but we're still building. It's not over, right? It's still very new, even though it's been exhausted in the media, and it feels like we've been in crypto for a very long time. I do still reference it as an inceptive type of technology and environment. And these are, so the fact that I get to work with extremely smart people and we're still trying to change the world from a variety of perspectives. So these are the values that I align to, I guess.
And it's true that the space is exploring all the different options that it can develop. And this is also very stimulating for me because the more I study about it, I learn and I read and I search, I discover new use cases. I discover also new layers.
Exactly.
So.
And it's not just crypto, because in order to understand crypto, and again, especially the first wave of implementations, you have to understand finance.
Yes.
So it's not just, you don't only learn about crypto, you go back and learn about finance. And no one was actually no one outside of the financial services world was actually looking into financial instruments or products. Everyone now talks about ETPs, ETFs, commodity securities. I doubt people from, like I said, outside of the financial world bubble were discussing these topics 10 years ago. So I think that's, again, another angle that is interesting, because people who are affected by these processes start to understand them better. And crypto has initiated that.
Sure, it has put in the forefront of society how
Exactly.
our financial system is collapsing.
Exactly. Collapsing, constructed. And these are things, again, that are affecting us and have been forever, but we didn't talk about central bank money. We didn't talk about what a central bank role is, or the Minister of Finance is, or the regulators. Now it's in the,
But can we question something if we don't have an alternative? This is also a question. Now it's bringing like a way to question it, because we have this decentralized finance being built. So we can question the first option, but yeah.
or we can try to we can question it after we've learned about it, then try to also improve the alternative that we have right now, because DeFi has not really permeated masses in a way that we would have wanted it to, for now at least. It's still very much a niche ecosystem, but it's expanding, and I think the expansion will include DeFi, but will be generated by other industry sectors that will try to build products and processes in a decentralized fashion.
And like following this, you are involved in multiple projects in different countries. Can you tell us, I'm a traveler, so I love traveling, but I didn't have this tech yet background, so I didn't explore the innovation in the countries. But I was wondering which country inspire you most, and which project also is the one, your favorite one?
So it's true that I have a portfolio career in crypto, and I tend to work with a multitude of projects. But now I've narrowed it down. So as you've seen and we've discussed, I am a Chief Strategy Officer for Domin Network, which is a open network, as well as a hybrid infrastructure that allows for Web2 to Web3 seamless integrations across a variety of verticals, gaming and luxury and commerce, and most importantly. So I'm a Chief Strategy Officer there, but we're also creating a foundation called the Domin Foundation, which will incorporate the open network that I just mentioned, as well as our tech unit, where we design all the commerce abstraction layer tech and what will follow. So I will chair that. We'll create a board for the foundation, and basically deal with its expansion into Europe and then into the US. This project originates out of Asia. The CEO, the CTO, both of them co-founders, are from Taiwan. And I absolutely love working within that ecosystem, the Asian ecosystem more generally. I think we can learn a lot in terms of swiftness of deployment of products. I quite literally, we talk about something today, and then by the end of the week, sometimes it is deployed. And not only that, the community reacts to it. That doesn't necessarily happen in Europe or in the US. And I'll go back to Domin in a second. So this is my main project currently, and I also sit on the board of Crypto UK, which is the largest pro crypto trade body operating out of the United Kingdom, and also on the exec board of the Multi-Chain Asset Managers Association. My colleagues from Switzerland who are promoting on-chain asset management. So, and I also like to travel a lot. I consider myself a nomad in that sense. And like I said, even though I have only been to Singapore, but I plan an extended and extensive trip to Asia in the near future, I believe that this is the part of the world where I have the most to learn from, because the parameters of operation are very different to what I'm used to, having operated in Europe and in the US almost most of my life. So yeah, I would definitely say I draw inspiration from there. And also, it's interesting because some of the metrics that you deploy, or some of the KPIs, if you will, and parameters that are successful in Asia are not necessarily relevant in Europe or the US. And that's challenging in a good way. I like that. And I guess.
Can you give us an example?
So for instance, what communities react to in Asia is very different from what some of the communities react to in Europe. And if you look at the crypto and Web plus environment overall, it is mostly institutionally driven in both US and in the EU. Communities mostly align around decentralized finance projects, or now, the hybridization of DeFi and TradFi, being able to use either more traditional entities or centralized crypto entities into the DeFi world. This is where I see the conglomeration, the aggregation of interest. Whereas in Asia, it's all about gaming. It's all about enabling that transition from Web3 environments into Web2 environments, meaning if you generate value in a Web3, in a non-chain economy, people want concrete ways via which they can deploy that value into their daily lives. So for instance, to give you an example, we had the NFT pass we created at Domin together with the Sandbox for the Hong Kong Blockchain Week. And people who had acquired the pass, who had bought the NFT within the Sandbox environment, were able to use it via our tech to get discounts for restaurants, Ubers, any other things that they do routinely, I would say. And there's huge demand for that in Asia. In Europe, I would say, and this is what I will focus on, the demand comes more from the corporate Web to corporate side. So luxury and fashion and potentially even gaming, but in a different way. Of course, brands want to incentivize a deeper relationship with their consumer base. But the way via which they achieve it is very different.
But don't you think as well that it's because in Asia they are more advanced in innovation and they pick up more quickly also all of those things? Because it seems that here having a wallet, having buying NFTs or having this kind of I've seen the other day that a few months ago that the project of Starbucks, the customer engagement project, the NFT ODZ project, like they killed it, they stopped it. And I was wondering, I didn't find information on why it didn't work out. But it's this kind of things where they add value to a ticket. Let's say that the NFT, it's your fidelity card, the fidelity card, but people didn't see the added value, didn't pick up the thing. It's a bit, yeah. Yes, this is
Yeah.
true.
So there are two things here. First of all, you cannot maintain the basic NFT format, because let's be honest, these loyalty points, so the first wave of NFTs, great, people were excited about that, but you need to upgrade the NFT experience as well via dynamic NFTs and including more real world data into these tools to be able to maintain interest for the client, the user, the owner of the NFT. So I think what happened is that we kind of stopped at the first layer of NFT implementation or NFT use cases. But now we're using a lot of meta. That's what we're doing as well. We're inserting metadata generated in real world environments, including via hardware devices like POSs and vending machines. We're inserting that metadata either into NFT or we bring it on chain for particular use cases. So there's an evolution there. You cannot just maintain the same thing and then expect people to be interested about it 1 year on. And the second thing would be that in Asia, you have the ecosystem. Everything is digital there. So it's very easy to integrate things. There's demand for that. In Europe, you cannot say that. Maybe in big cities across EU countries, but it doesn't really happen across the board. Now, I'm not saying that every single village in Asia, everyone is extremely tech savvy. No, of course, there are different layers there as well. But I would say that it's much more like tech and digitally predominant of society. And in Europe, yeah, we have silos. You have something that is very innovative, but then if you want to expand it, you're limited because the other parts that you can build an ecosystem with are not there yet.
The infrastructure, yes, it's true. Yeah, I can see Asia. I've never been to Asia, but I can see that they're more advanced into their day-to-day tech use. And so maybe for them it's even more easier to have a wallet and to use different digital passes. And I don't know if you have been there, if they know they still use the NFT word or they use another word. How is it?
They do still do use the NFT. And even us, I mean, we're doing some NFT airdrops as we speak. And so NFTs are still seen as a tool for community aggregation around a certain project. But like I said, not the basic NFTs that we know,
No, okay.
more advanced types. And the ability to have a sophisticated NFT in the sense that tooling allows for constant change, right? So yeah, they still use the word, they still use the actual NFTs. And I wouldn't say it's, sorry?
Because here they use that argument of saying, okay, we are too techy, we use tech words like NFT, we shouldn't, if we want mass adoption, we should change our language. But I don't, is it really an argument, you know?
Yeah, no, but I don't, what NFT, non-fungible tokens, I don't think anyone actually even thinks about what it means, but
Mhm.
everyone knows about NFTs. I think they've been propagated throughout media for the past 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just an argument that people like to throw at us. I think that, dude, I don't think it's so easy. Now it's so easy to get an NFT, to have it in your wallet, to even have it in your centralized exchange if you're not
Yeah.
comfortable dealing with unhosted wallets. So yeah, I just think this is an argument that we can just not even respond to anymore.
Okay. And at the level of politics, because I learned today that you were also in politics before. So
Yeah,
I've seen that you were involved at the EU level as well. And I don't know if in Asia you also have some experience how regulation
not
works.
yet,
Not
not
yet.
yet.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. But can you tell us a little bit your takeaways about the regulation here in Europe and what's your thought?
Upcoming.
Yeah.
I welcome Mika. I just want to start off with that. I think it's a good development. I don't think Mika is as extensive as it was initially designed to be, but maybe that's a good thing, because I don't think the regulators are equipped to completely understand where our industry segment is going. So for now, they focused on um capturing centralized entities in crypto, which more or less operate like TradFi entities. So it's very easy. Okay, of course they've had to insert some new things, but it wasn't that difficult to put this together. I mean, we could argue why it took so long, but that's the legislative process in the EU. So it's good that we have Mika. It's good that we haven't captured DeFi yet. I think it's what is happening now in terms of targeting developers is dangerous, because you're basically generating that angst for everyone who's developing a project that maybe three years down the road they will be accused of having done something that contravenes laws or all sorts of regulations. So that's a not so optimistic precedent targeting developers, and I definitely think this is not the way to go. So yeah, going just to summarize, it's good that we have Mika. Mika only covers a portion of our industry, but for now, if we get basic, I would say, clarity rules around some aspects, the innovation can continue. That being said, I don't see many projects rushing to operate out of the EU, especially the small ones. There are more enticing jurisdictions for them to do so. So from that perspective, I don't think Mika has, the goal was to, let's bring all of the crypto world here. No, you cannot. The larger entities, of course, they want to have passporting access into the EU. They will comply with the rules, and you've attracted those. VC investment, yeah, there were some encouraging figures right after Mika was adopted. I haven't checked them to see if they still stand, but what I can tell you, operating with many startups, either via mentoring or just simply interacting with them, no one is rushing to operate out of any EU member state. And the same could be said about the UK with some exceptions. So yeah, I don't think we've done everything, but it's okay. It's a process. I also don't think this role model, EU becoming a role model for regulation implementation or regulation initiation, it has to stop at one point. I mean, yes, great. GDPR it's become the image attached to the EU regulatory ecosystem. Now we have Mika, but let's also focus on actually supporting business here.
Yeah.
And I alluded to the fact that there are so many EU level funds that are designed to support startups, and startups don't get them. So maybe the focus should be there. Now, going back to politicians themselves, if we're being honest, we've only had a few politicians interested in this topic throughout the years. Bull market, bear market. So it's not like we have a mass of people showing interest or genuine showing interest in the topic or interest in genuinely working with the industry to push this forward. And again, the same applies to the US and the UK. The Asian ecosystem I'm not that familiar with, but I will be, so I can tell you what is happening there. So yeah, a handful of politicians. Politicians are pragmatists as well, so they attach themselves to trends. Some of them do understand the tech. Some of them do have a vision in terms of where this industry could go or what it could develop into. Is that how is that relevant now when we will have a revamp of potentially 90% of all of the current members of the European Parliament, for instance? I expect many new faces to onboard the European Parliament HQ. So let's see, that might be an opportunity to change things, to change the way we interact with them. And I think the fault also lies on the industry side, because it's the same people interacting. So it's mostly government affairs people that interact with politicians and regulators. Government, and I've said this, you've heard me on that panel, I've said this, you cannot have a credible crypto government affairs person who used to be in a TradFi or a centralized commerce environment just 2 weeks or 1 month prior. So we need to bring the developers, we need to bring founders in these discussions. They have a different optic, and they can bring in some fresh ideas, I feel. So there's an opportunity. We will have EU elections, we will have UK elections as well. I think it's on us to also revamp the way we interact with both policymakers and regulators.
I think it's a good point, because 2 years ago I was attending an event with politicians there invited, and they made a clear call. We need better interaction with people in the space to understand what's happening. And I was with developers next to me, and I asked them, would you be interested to go and talk with politicians about what?
No.
And they said, no way. They said,
But
we don't want to discuss with them.
I know, and it's a valid point, but let's see if they think the same way after a developer has been, there has been a trial and there's a sentence upcoming. So if they feel that they can become a target inadvertently, maybe the attitude will shift. And yeah, of course, you cannot have a team of 10 developers from 10 projects coming in to talk to a politician, because the discussion will be syncopatic. I don't think the politicians know how to interact with developers and vice versa. But you can have a much more diversified group that is representative of, at the end of the day, these are the people, developers, they are building these products. There's a vision from the founder, and sometimes the founder is also a developer. So I think they're the best equipped to actually have a discussion, a genuine discussion, an honest discussion about what the end goal is for us. Because the end goal, crypto started as an anti-government, anti-TradFi movement. Of course, we've matured since then, and we've understood that we need the infusion of institutional capital. We also need the regulators by our side. So of course, the narrative has shifted a little bit. However, we are still trying to build an alternative world for everything. And we have the tooling. So I think it's in everyone's interest to just get together in a meaningful way, not as we've done so far, which is, I believe, extremely artificial. Industry, there are these events, one politician or two politicians are attending, the industry is there, they have they take 10 pictures, they create this amazing LinkedIn or Twitter post, everyone is excited, oh, the industry and the political world and the regulars, there's collaboration. The reality is very different. So we need to move away from that artificial and clickbait generating activities and do something meaningful, like I said. And this is something that I forgot to mention. We're also creating a Commerce Plus Alliance, a global alliance of Web2 and Web3 entities looking to converge in the commerce, on-chain commerce space, and there will be a lobbying angle attached to that as well, designed specifically to target what I've just said.
Yeah, that was something I was willing to ask you, because we're running a bit of time. But like, what are your projects, ongoing project and future project, like that you are involved in?
Yeah, so definitely being the chairwoman of the Domin Foundation is my main priority at the moment. As I've said, I'm crafting together with the team, of course, the board, We're aiming to bring someone that is representative of every single vertical that we tackle, and we will tackle gaming, commerce, luxury, fashion, esports, every single environment where you can have that seamless Web2 to Web3 integration, both ways, right? So Web2 to Web3 and Web3 to Web2. So these are this is the main focus at the moment. Then launching the Commerce Plus Alliance, which is going to be a business alliance at the end of the day, but we're also aiming to create new standards for on-chain commerce, and depending on the profile of the entities that we will coagulate, potentially other standards as well. There's a digital passport product, which a huge deal in the EU. And we are looking into that as well, and how we can interact with the policymakers here and bring our insights and input. And yes, creating that lobbying angle within the Domin Foundation, and basically just finding many partners so that we can expand globally, because the tech is there. We're the only ones at the moment having created a commerce abstraction layer, so it's a middleware between blockchain layer 1s, 2s, 3s, and an application or a decentralized application. So the idea is to just expand this tech around the world and democratize access to commerce.
Yeah, and if you would have like a few advice or suggestion for people willing to enter the space and understand better the added value, the transition towards a Web Plus, what would you recommend?
Oh, I always say start listening to podcasts, and it's always if people have time, start following the news a little bit. I know it's overwhelming and there's mostly negative virality happening when it comes to crypto and Web Plus. But there are some good podcasts out there, and I would just say follow those people. Look at this. People have to read to understand. Start listening to a crypto podcast and see if it appeals to you. Maybe it doesn't, but I doubt it won't. And I think the mentality is that of, okay, let's learn about something new. I don't know if I can name podcasts. We can start with your podcast. They can listen to your podcast and your guests, and I'm sure most of them give indications as to where else you could get resources from. Just start reading. I don't know, Web Plus, Web3, look into decentralized finance, try to understand what it is, all sorts of implementations. Look into staking, look into liquid rich staking, look at the Ethereum, Bitcoin, Solana ecosystems. Try to understand what they are. Try to understand if you have your own filter when it comes to understanding it, because there's always, that's the thing about crypto and Web Plus. You can get involved as anyone. You do not need to be an accredited investor. You do not need to have, there aren't too many prerequisites. So everyone can basically jump in and test, of course, in a very moderated way. I'm not inviting people to throw a lot of capital in it. Not at all. Just test with small amounts. You don't even need to test with money. Just learn and see what it is. Be a part of a community. Go join a Discord group. And this is how I guess you get the bug, and you will want to get more involved in the space.
I think it's a good advice to close our podcast today, is that wherever you come from and whatever industry you come from, you can just enter the space with the willingness to learn and understand what's happening, and connecting with different people. As you mentioned at the very beginning, you met people in different industry as well, and you discussed like about the views of everyone, opinion of everyone on what it could be, how is it being developed and everything. So it's the same today. The goal is to explore together, all together, how to make change in society for a better society as well, aligning with our values and what this tech can bring to our society. Well, thank you very much, Ioana, for your time and for all those insightful discussion we had. I was very happy to be able to have those discussions. And I thank you everyone for listening to the podcast. And I wish you all the best with all your projects. That's amazing. I will follow you for sure.
Thank you very much. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you, Joanna. Thanks.
Bye.